All right, follow along on your scratch paper for the Math on the Spot video.
You know, solving inequalities is really a wild ride, and we have to pay attention, and it gets kind of scary, and it hits its ups and its downs, and greater than and less thans, and so forth. It really is something that's breathtaking. But if we understand what we're doing, we will never, ever get lost. In fact, you know, all this ride stuff reminds me of a great riddle that actually involves looking at different rides at an amusement park. Let's take a look at it and see that it actually provides yet another example how to look at inequalities. Let's check it out together. Okay, here's our challenge. Let's write an inequality representing the unknown b, which represents the height in inches of people who can go on both the River Rapids and Mighty Mountain rides. So, here we see are the height requirements, because these rides are so scary that you have to be a certain height in order to know that you'll be safe on those rides. And so for Mighty Mountain, you have to have a minimum height of 44 inches, and for River Rapids, which is the real wet one, that's when you get all wet, it's a requirement that you are at least 38 inches. So let's take a look at what we know and see if we could figure out stuff. So what we're doing is we're letting b be the unknown that represents the heights of people who can go on both rides. See, sometimes we actually pick a letter that will help us remember what, in fact, the letter represents. B for both. And so now let's take a look at each one of these separately. The height required for the River Rapids, we're going to call R for River Rapids. And we know what that is. So the River Rapids, we see, is 38 inches at a minimum. At a minimum. So what does that mean? It means that you have to be, in fact, have a height that is greater than or equal to 38. Greater than or equal, because if that's the minimum, it means you have to be at least that or taller. So how would I write that in terms of an inequality with R? The way that I would say that is I would say that this way. I would say that R is greater than or equal to 38. Now I'm going to box that in because that's our first inequality. That's the requirement for the River Rapids.
Okay, sorry about that. Continuing.
Rapids. Now we want to find an inequality for both, so we have to keep going. So now let's take a look at the other one, which is the Mighty Mountain. So the height requirement for the Mighty Mountain, I'm going to call that M, and we know that the height required for that one, if we look at the chart, is a minimum of 44 inches, which means you have to be greater than or equal to 44, because you have to be at least 44 or taller. So again, what would that inequality look like? That inequality would look like this. We could say now M, I think I'm going to write it right here, M would be greater than or equal to 44. And so that's the second inequality that we have. Now, if you want to be able to ride them both, how can we actually understand that? Well, it means that both have to actually be satisfied at the same time. And one way to visualize this is to actually graph these inequalities on a number line. So in fact, I'm going to show you two number lines, one for the River Rapids and one for the Mighty Mountain. And let me show you how to graph each of these. So to graph this one, what we're going to say is R has to be greater than or equal to 38. And what that means is, what that really means at the end of the day is that you're at 38. Now let's see where 38 is. Well, here's 36. And these are increasing by notches of 6. So this is going to be 42. So 38 is right around here. So I'm going to put a dot right at 38. So that's if R equals 38. But the point is, in fact, color that in, R can be greater than or equal to 38. So there's 38, but it can be greater than. So to indicate that, I'm going to actually make all of this red. Do you see, this kind of is showing me that any allowable value in this red zone is r being a greater than or equal to 38. This is 38 right here. Maybe you can write in 38 right there. And I'll put a little arrow here to show that this continues. You can keep going out. And so this is how you graph an inequality. It's kind of cool, right? Because there's more than one answer. There are lots of numbers that are greater than or equal to 38, and this is kind of a graph of them all. Now, how would we graph the second inequality? So this is the R ones. This is the R. Okay, now here we have m greater than or equal to 44. So where's 44? Well, let's see. Here's 36. Here's 42. So it's going to be around here somewhere. I'll put it right over here. I'm going to say that's 44. And then you're greater than or equal to 44. So again, you go way out to the right. If the inequality were less than or equal to, then the coloring would go the other way, you see. But since it's greater than, we want to actually color in the numbers that are greater than or equal to 44. And again, put an arrow there to indicate that it keeps going. And these are the m values. Now, where are the values that, in fact, are satisfied by both of these? Well, we're looking for where they overlap. And you see where they overlap. They overlap all over here, over here, over here, over here, over here, until we get to 44. But if we go less than 44, then all of a sudden they don't overlap. Only the River Rapids holds, not, in fact, the Mighty Mountain. So when do they both hold? What are the heights for people who can go on both rides? It'll be, the heights have to be at least 44 inches. And so what that tells us is, it gives us the answer that the B, which means the height to be on both, has to be greater than or equal to 44. And that's our final answer, because that is the inequality that tells us the height for people who can go on both rides, because this is satisfied by this and satisfied by this at the same time. Any smaller than 44, it wouldn't satisfy this inequality, and we want both. So this, in fact, is the answer. B greater than or equal to 44 is the inequality that we seek. Absolutely amazing that we were able to actually create two inequalities, and by graphing them on a number line, in fact, two number lines, we can compare the two and see, in fact, where they overlapped, which is where they both share, in fact, the same exact information, and that would tell us when, in fact, both are satisfied, which is exactly what we're after. In this case, though, however, since I'm tall enough, I'm actually going to go on the River Rapids, and you know what that means? I'm going to get soaking wet. It's like taking a bath, which is kind of fun, but it also means I have to go on this ride not alone, but, in fact, with the appropriate partner, my bath partner. That's right. I'm ready. Have fun thinking about math and have fun rolling down the rocky road of inequalities. As long as you understand what things mean, you will never get derailed. Have fun with math, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.